advanced video. I'm going to talk about stays with distraction and how to work through that, as well as recall with distraction. Typically what I do when I run in a class setting is the last few weeks we work on recalls, and typically what I do, but it's just me and my dog and of course my videographer who's helping me today. Usually what I do as a distraction for recall is I'll leave the dog on a stay and or get the handler to leave the dog on a stay, and I will sit. So come here, bud. So if I was leaving him on a stay, I, as the distraction person, would usually sit in a chair or crouch down or something like that, and I would hold on to some treats or toys, something or both of those things depending on the dog. Again, depending on the dog that, okay buddy, that would be working in that moment, would decide whether I would squeak that toy or crinkle that bag, or whether I would just hold it. That's Josie crying in the background, of course. Hopefully she doesn't scream too much. I may have to excuse myself to close that door. But yeah, so the idea with working on distractions, and especially with your stays, I'll come back to recall, but with your stays, is you really want to build confidence with that. And in understanding, this is kind of why I'm doing the video of stays and recall together, they are polar opposite exercises. So sometimes dogs that have really good stays are reluctant on recall because the stay has been so well reinforced and taught. Whereas other dogs that are really driven to get to their people and have no problem coming when called, they can struggle a bit on their stays because they want to be with their person all the time, and that's what they're most comfortable with. So understand that those two exercises are polar opposites, and that in training one thing, you always need to balance the other. Having said that, and you may have heard me say this before because you've all trained with me kind of long enough, when you're working on stay, that's when you should train stay and really be hung up on your criteria for stay, is when you're working on stay, not when you're working recall. So if you leave your dog for a recall and you leave them on a stay and they move on that stay, I take them back a time or maybe two, but I don't really get too upset about it. I just say, oh, let's try again. I don't correct that in the same way as if I was actually working to stay in that moment. I just reset them. But I wouldn't continually go back, no stay, no stay, no stay, and then expect them to come zooming to me really happily and quickly when I just kept telling them I don't want you to move. So pick your battle, I guess, and when you're working on your stays, that's when you should be sticky about your stay criteria, not when in that moment your plan is to work on your recall. So having said that, I'm going to set up to do a distraction recall here with Riggs. I am limited as to the distractions that I can provide. I'm going to just throw a couple of his toys. I may throw out a couple things. Again, he's a bit more toy motivated than treat motivated. I may just leave his treats there for him to kind of blow by as well. The idea when you're working on distractions on your stays, distance is your friend. So if you set your dog up in a scenario and they don't have success, then maybe provide a bit more lateral distance. They maybe need a little bit more of a wide berth to get past something and not go and investigate it. They may need a long line to really help you follow through properly when they choose to go visit their distraction instead. No matter what you kind of set up with that, what I feel is most important when you're teaching distraction recalls is that if your dog goes to the distraction, go get your dog. Do not just stand and continue to call them. Call them once or twice and start moving towards them if they haven't started coming to you. My dogs know this very, very well. Even Riggs, as a 10-month-old puppy, and he's not perfect. He's great, and he's got a lot of really great everyday life skills on him that make him so easy to live with and walk and engage with. But when he's being a dog and maybe lingering a little longer than I want him to, and I've called him, I don't call him a third time. I'm already heading towards him, and then he knows that. So he disengages and will follow through and come with me. So I'm going to set up a recall. If my dog blows by the distraction, I'm going to have a big celebration as a handler. If my dog goes to the distraction, I'm going to go get my dog. All right, I'm ready. I have treats. I have dog. Let's go. See me now? Yeah? Yeah?
Now, yeah.
That was good. Still see me? Don't mind me, guys. I'm an amateur. Riggs, come! Yes! Good boy! That's a good job. Yes! What a good boy! What a good boy! I'm going to see if I can engage him a little more in his toys and leave him. Here, buddy. Up, 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 up. Here, buddy. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Riggs, come! Good boy. So that time I really kind of upped my distraction level by tossing a toy when I called my dog. I went and got him immediately. I did not reward him with food when he came to me. I praised him out, showed him what I wanted, and I'm going to set him right up like that and try it again. Go, bud. Come here. Up, up, up. Sit. Wait. Riggs, come! Yes! Good boy! Good job, buddy! So that time, yes. Again, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but Riggs, I almost called him Briar. Riggs kind of heard the little out of my mouth. Again, I'm not dealing with a ton of distance here, so I kind of have to be right on top of my dog. Usually I'd probably be working about double this distance, or at least half again. But as soon as he saw that I was going for that toy as well, he redirected and came back to me. And that time he got a reinforcement for it. So hopefully that will give him information about what I liked or loved more about that performance than the first one. So let's try again. I might try to get a little more distance going on here. Betty, buddy, what a good puppy you are. On the heel. Way to go, boy. Riggs, come! Yes! Good boy. Hey. Yes! Good boy. What a good job, buddy. Very good. So that time there was even less hesitation from my puppy about coming towards me. I didn't really have to move in to correct him. I just gave him that quick hey. Again, timing on that is important. I'm dealing with a shorter distance and a very fast dog, so my timing has to be pretty spot on. But at the end of the day, what Riggs does understand about our foundation is that I'm going to follow through if he chooses wrong, and I'm going to show him something different. And I'm only, good boy, I'm only going to offer him a food reinforcement when he gets it right or close to right. So what I often like to say about, especially with stays, don't get too hung up on your failures. The failures are information for your dog, and without them, they can't learn the contrast. They can't learn the reward versus no reward if there's never opportunity for no reward. If they're only ever doing it right, they don't really get that balance. So that's what distraction training is about. It's trying to get your dog to break out of what you've trained them to do, just, based on what's going on around them, so you can show them what you'd rather them be doing. So don't get too hung up on the failures. Don't get mad at your dogs. You still want to build that trust and relationship relationship and that value in you as a handler, that coming to me every time, bam, there's going to be a party. Whether it's a party with toys, a party with praise, a party with food, it's going to be a really big deal. So again, making less of a big deal of the mistakes and just a redirection, a lack of reinforcement. That should be information to your dogs about what you love. The other thing, again, if I had time and distance a bit more with this demo, it's a good opportunity to use your leave it and proof your leave it a bit. So I would often, and as I practice this, I've really just started doing a bit of this with Riggs in the past few weeks that I've had some more time. Use your leave it cue. So I will use that to proof my leave it's a bit. Again, follow through is important if your dog continues to engage. I always say with leave it's that they go hand in hand with loose leash walking, which I showed you in your last video, and recall. I think that a great deal of headway can be made in your training if you recognize that. If you train a strong leave it, you maintain that training through kind of intermittent going back to rewarding and reminding them of what you love, and maybe reminding them of that foundation, and using it for when they are running towards something and they're, they go see people or whatever. My dogs, Riggs doesn't get this yet. He's not there yet. We're working on it. But Josie, for instance, I have to cue her. She may come if I called her a few times, but if I cue her to leave it first, to stop engaging with people or smells or other dogs, she will come to me 9.9 times out of 10. If I don't cue her to leave it first, I may have to call her 3 or 4 times. That leave it should tell your dog to stop engaging with what is distracting them or has their attention and redirect to you. So that's my advice for you with recall. Again, if Riggs didn't end up having success with this, I would have had to sort of change it. I would have had to make my distractions further away, or maybe somehow get Mary to, from where she is, to kind of toss a toy further away, some sort of other distraction for him. I would have had to make it a little bit easier so we could have success. So yes, we want to understand that failures give our dogs information, but at the end of the day, we want to work through those failures so that your dog understands the successful route to take. So that's your recall. So again, polar opposite. Okay, Papa. Polar opposite is your stay. And I should mention as well with your recall, and it kind of is going to tie in with your stay. When you're adding higher distractions, you want to make maybe your distance or your duration a little bit less. So for instance, on your recall, not that you're holding a long duration, but you may be going a certain distance away. Maybe you need to stick a bit closer for your dog to have confidence. This is definitely true with stay. So yeah, build on some strong duration and distance, and a consistent one. So let's say you're working like 10 or 12 feet distance from your dog, and a nice solid 3 to 5 minute stay. That's great. That's probably where I would want to be before I started too much distraction training. I would want my dog to thoroughly understand the stay exercise when the environment hasn't become too much for them to process. So when I'm adding to the difficulty of the exercise by distractions, me running around, me dropping food around the dog, me throwing a ball, okay? So the progressions in class, what I tend to do in a group session is in a session, in a group of dogs, usually I will work on a little bit of the duration and distance without a ton of distraction, and I'll get in that usually somewhere between week 4, 5, and 6, or for sure 5 and 6 when we really get into distractions. Get some understanding, get an idea of how the dogs are working on their stays, and have the dog success in that moment. And then what I typically instruct the owners to do when I start adding higher distractions is stay closer. Stay one good step closer to your dog than you did the last stay with no distraction. And so So then typically I start with food and I like wander in between the dogs while they're doing their stay, and I kind of crinkle my food. If we have success with that, I may walk back and forth behind the handlers and kind of drop some chips or food on the floor. Usually I use like a bag of chips or something, human food. Make that crinkle. That's something that's going to make them all look up. If your dog does not respond to the distraction, that's a good time to go in and offer a food reward. All right? If they're thinking about moving, if they look unsure, that is not a time to go in and offer a food reward. It may, however, be a time where you step in and lean into your dog and, hey, remind them, I don't want you to think about moving. There is nothing happening here that's too much for you. You just stay. I will usually follow up that kind of correction with a verbal stay again, and a little bit of praise. What else did I want to say about that before I demo? Again, he's been pretty good on his stays. We've been working this hard for, we're taking an online agility course right now, so we've been working on quite a bit. What else did I want to say about it? I think that's it, really. Okay, buddy, come here. So, again, I don't know what I can do to get him to move, but you'll see what I work a bit with my agility stuff. Here, buddy. So, I'm kind of particular with my dogs. I'm sure you guys didn't really realize that, but I am. So, for me, stay means stay until I can get back to you. Wait means stay until I release you from a head. So for me, for agility, I tend to use the wait cue because I'm going to leave my dog and then I'm going to go far ahead and release him and start running. But I also like my dogs to know a cue that means stay and don't move until I come right back to you. I think that is a very valuable thing to have a lot of trust in with your dog, and to know that there shouldn't be a mistake of, well, maybe I'll release you out here. So I'm super particular about that. I'm super particular with this guy especially. Not sure why. I may never do obedience with him, but I want him to know stay means stay and you do not move. So I'm going to reward this. He's doing a great job. Stay. Again, I always repeat my stay cue when I've given a reward. So my distance isn't, I don't have a grand distance. I could go off camera and practice like a little bit more distance, but I'm not going to worry about that. So now I'm going to start offering some distractions. It would be even better if I had Josie out, because then you could see what I'm really working on with him is impulse control while I work her too. I may let her out to see how that works too, because I don't know if I'll be able to get her to move otherwise. So that's successful. I ran around like a crazy person. When I was off camera, I was kind of crouching down, really almost encouraging or egging him on to move, which he didn't, which is excellent. So I'm going to go right back to his heel position. I'm going to reward him and release him. I'm going to go let Josie out and see what kind of results we get when I up the ante a bit. Wait, buddy. Again, stay means stay until I get back to you, and I want him to know that he needs to be solid as a statue. Okay, buddy. Wow! And the whole time, all he was really thinking about was his toys. He doesn't even care that much for my food. He likes it enough. He really wants typically to be released to his toys. I'm going to just grab Josie. Boss is here. So this is where the real fun begins with me with Riggs. And I could do a whole series on how hard I've worked in getting him calmer around Joe's when she's working. I'm not there yet where I can do any kind of agility with Josie with him in his day, but we have been working on me being able to do some obedience with Josie, maybe some freestyle that's a bit more fun, and even tug with her when he's on a stay. So this is a million times harder for him. Wait. Joe's itch. Little freestyle fun. Go do a spin, do a twist. Ta-da! Ta-da! Here, wait. Ay. Sit. Stay. Told you I'm picky. Moved his front foot forward when I went to reward him. Even though I said my yes, I didn't actually treat him. I put him back. I'm going to work Joe some more. Ready? Stay. I just said wait, so I repeated my stay instead. So again, I see he did hold, and that's wonderful, but I still see that forward movement. I don't want to reward that. I want him to be a statue. So I'm going to play a quick game with Joe's, a little less intense, see if I can get some success for him. Yes, what a good little fella. He's a good puppy, rigmarole. Does a really good job. Oh, the good little fella. Wait, sit, stay. Typically, I don't always practice what I preach, but typically I say, do not offer petting and a lot of praise to your dog for a stay. This kid absorbs it and loves it, so I actually do use it a little bit for him in small doses to signify extra like to a breakthrough maybe he's had or something that was particularly hard. A lot of dogs, the only reason I use it for him is because it works. A lot of dogs will break their stay when you use physical touch, but he doesn't. So I do use it in small increments when we've had like a little breakthrough. Josie pats and pats. Oh, I love you, make turn, I love a big turn. Over the circle and walking around. Look where you go now. Oh, I get that. Give me. Yes, good boy. Stay. What a good job you're doing. Touch. What a good fella. Yes. Good. Okay, buddy. Woo! Good job. So you can see the only thing on his mind was that tug. The only thing on Josie's mind was the treats. Isn't that kind of ironic in what I was using for rewards? But you can see, I'm sure, that it was harder for Riggs to hold that stay. He offered lots of licking and calming cues to indicate kind of stress and stress release, that he was really working hard to cope with that impulse control there. So And you can see how I broke it down for him a little bit too. I made it a little bit easier once I brought the bigger distraction. I made it a little bit easier so he could understand where the successful path would be. And then I proofed it a little bit more after rewarding him and kind of revved Josie up a bit more, threw a few tricks in there, which he knows is fun too. Those are some tricks he knows now. So there's always competition between the dogs. Yeah, so I hope this is helpful in working through and progressing with your stays. Lastly, kind of my closing little bit of advice for you guys. I know I've said this a couple times in the last few videos. Get out there. Now we can kind of enjoy some outside spaces a little bit more public around. I certainly am appreciating having this extra time while I have a young dog on the ground. I've been to King Square a couple times. I work around the uptown area. I just take a 20-minute walk with my dog in a busy place, and I do some impulse control, attention and stays and heel work, off-leash recall, tug, all that kind of stuff. It's certainly not the first time he's been up there, but maybe it's the third. So, you know, you need to kind of look outside maybe your normal routines or comfort level and jump in the middle of a park you've never gone to before, or work your dog a bit. I always work these things up. I practice my eye contact, my heel position, my stays a bit, a little bit of walking, direction changes, turning in, turning away. I don't tend to practice my leave-its there. There's too much going on in the environment. I want to work my basic skills. Once I have some success with that, I do a little walk around, just kind of let my dog acclimate to the environment, maybe meet some people, maybe use some people as guinea pigs and work a stay, all those kind of things. So I absorb it. I love that kind of stuff. I'm really enjoying having a young dog. Love you too, Joes. You're perfect. But having a young dog to kind of get out and work all that and see him grow and see his confidence grow. Yeah, so hopefully this helps, and I will be in touch within the next week. Actually, probably sooner than that, because I think my agility will be during the week. So I'll put some dates out there for some weekend get-togethers, and please send me videos, post, let me know how you're doing, if I can help. Thank you very much. Have a good night.